Okay. Hi everyone, Jai Bhim to everyone, and thank you for joining us on a Saturday evening to listen to Percy and her practice. And I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about how ARC and what we do. And so basically, ARC is a Ambedkar Reading Circle is an anti-caste collective started in Bangalore last year in April, and it's conceived around Baba Sahib's action slogan called "Organize." And as a collective, we kind of try to focus our anti-caste dialogues in the city of Bangalore, and we have different formats to do workshops and event, and mainly we work with three larger formats. So we have a Kaban reads Baba Sahib session. It's a silent reading session which happens in Kaban Parks on Sundays, where we kind of read writings about Ambedkar and other anti-caste authors. And we also have a workshop series where we call it as "Come Explore with Us," which is kind of a workshop style um, uh, series, and we kind of use art and design tools to engage with the conversation around caste. And we are also trying to do a lot more workshops around discrimination in workspaces and educational institutions. So that will be coming up in the future weeks, and we'll keep you posted on that. And we also have a lecture series which we kind of like we invite artists and researchers and um, activists to like, talk about their work and their practice around caste and um, around caste. So today, as part of our lecture series, we have Percy, who's kind of like taken some time to talk about her practice and what she does. And Percy is a visual artist based in Hyderabad, and she uses acrylic medium and mixed medium to do her artworks. And she's currently in Yakshi Constitutional Waves in a praxis program where she kind of works with the marginalized women using art to understand constitution better. And largely Percy's work is ethnographic, and mostly she kind of like talks about her and mostly talk it's about her Dalit upbringing and experiences, which kind of like she talks about. And thank you, Percy, for joining this, and it's good to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Percy. I'm a practicing artist from Hyderabad. Am I audible, Akbar? Am I clear? Okay. Oh,
Yes, loud and clear.
okay. Thank you. So today I want to put out like a theory about Dalit art practices and how stories from Dalit uh, homes or Dalit bodies and how they are perceived and how my experience of putting myself out there as a Dalit artist and my work, and in my small way, I feel like I'm so my content with my I'm going to discuss that here today. So my uh, topic today is actually abjection. I want to start by talking about a little bit about abjection. I've made a presentation. I'm going to share it now. Um, you're not allowed to share my screen. Can you fix that? Yeah. Um, so what is abjection? Is abjection means something that shouldn't be that's something you shouldn't see. Like for example, feces, blood, or anything that's disgusting in like in bodily way. That something is called abject. That's called abject. Female bodies that are not ideal sizes, female bodies that are not ideal sizes, that are confident. These are all this is actually a feminist theory, abjection critical theory, um, that's been around for ages. So what I find it interesting is that when our bodies, Dalit bodies, are put out in the world, they're perceived certain way. um, like for example, an upper caste woman, this is in my personal experience. I've seen a performance of an upper caste woman being sexual or promiscuous or using abjection like um, as freedom, as a way to be like, I'm a rebel. It works for upper caste women, but somehow doesn't apply to oppressed communities, Muslim, Dalit, any other. It's something I've observed, because my my existence or Dalit existence itself is abject. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is I'm going to repeat myself because I might not be clear, and if I have the slides ready, I would like to show what I mean. I'm going to talk about this again. So um, abjection as a topic is used in a lot of feminist literature or movies as a way to rebel against the mainstream standard of portrayal of anything that could be women, it can be even men, anyone that's going against the grain, as a way to be like, hey, it's like cheating. Like, it's like, for example, if you put Rahul Gandhi on screen and talk about, if Rahul Gandhi comes up on screen and says Jai Shri Ram, like, it's like that. Like, it's not even, and it's not spectacle. This is not dhamakar. It's not what's the word, unexpected. Talking about I'm talking about something that shouldn't be. Okay, hope I'm making sense. Like feces, like, also, whatever, when we talk about abject things, there can be things, it's a broader concept. Like, for example, when you see an empty mall, like there's nothing in a mall, like abandoned mall, that's something it was. It's in designer terms, and I think it's called liminal space. Liminal space is, it doesn't belong somewhere, it doesn't have a purpose, it's just there, like in between staircases or lobbies or an empty kirana shop or something like that. It gives you an in eerie feeling of, like, why is this, there should be something here, but that's now something's missing. That's the place of abjection. My understanding is, and it's also said about black artists and black art, is when you see a oppressed person in a in a brahminized world, or in somewhere, like, for example, if you see a Dalit person a comfortably living in a big bungalow, or you're seeing him in a high club somewhere living his life, for a Brahmin man or a Brahmin person or an oppressor person, for him that is abject. That is like, you shouldn't belong here. Why are you here? It's that, because that's, it comes with like, you. I'm going off of um, a value and a system that we hold, is that, hey, you shouldn't be here. Why you here? Like, it's so the person becomes abject. The existence itself is abject, while oppressor communities have to perform abjection. Dalit community, Dalit bodies don't have to perform abjection. Dalit bodies are abject. They are already abject in the eyes of the mainstream, like, ness. But um, but what is abjection as freedom? So for women, especially women, because they are also marginalized in some way, when you see upper caste women move to spaces from like their mainstream places, and try and have space in a take space in a different marginalized space, or like, try to support them, for them that is abjection. That is trying to be uh, more um, out of their out of their normal in some way. So I find that very interesting when someone presents themselves or performs themselves as fat, or oh, I do, uh, I don't want to do follow my dad's business, or um, I I like to perform like any kind of going against this hetero Brahminical case for oppressor communities is abject, but for Dalit communities, their existence itself is abject. So I hope I made myself very clear. Okay, I'm now going to start my presentation. Thank you, Ray. Now,
Are you able to share the screen?
yeah, I can. Mm, yeah. So this is what I've said until now. Critical theory, abjection is a state of being cast out or separated from the norms and the rules, especially on the scale of society and morals. The term has been explored in post-structuralism as that which inherently disturbs conventional identity and cultural concepts. Okay, so first, to understand abjection in Dalit communities, like, we have to understand the oppressor gaze first, and no one has done it better or than understanding the abjection. I think in as Paranjit in Kala, um, because why I say this is Rajnikant has played characters like Shiva, where he saved families, did so much. Like, I think I'm saying the movie name wrong. Okay. He has played the big savior, big industrialist, doing things for social justice, this and that. But suddenly, when you put him as a, when you make the same Rajnikant, his public image and his media image, the icon that he is in cinema has always been that. But when you made him a Dalit, suddenly I know how people have abandoned Rajni fandom, like, because it felt like people were cheated. Like, I'm talking about mainstream audience. I remember very clearly when this movie came, mainstream audience felt cheated because, like, how can you make Rajnikant a Dalit hero? But he's not any different. He's doing the same things as his previous movies, but in this his character is playing a Dalit man who's not victim. He's not victim because, and he's also not he's not poor. He is so many other things. He's pretty well, has money. He has a big family, happy family. All of those things which you do not associate with a Dalit character. First, we don't have Dalit characters on screen. When you see that, something about that, looking at that, like, for example, the one I'm showing right now, this is abjection. Like, how, like, you're going, how dare you show me this? How dare you, as an oppressor, for me to show you this? Like, that makes you uncomfortable. Why does that make you uncomfortable? Why does it make someone from Brahmin, or, like, Brahminical caste, makes them uncomfortable? Is this is not the idea of, not even the idea. How dare you? How are you comfortable with your own abjection? With your own, like, you're not performing your victimhood. You're not performing anything. You're just comfortable in your own existence. That is abjection. So the point I'm trying to make here is that Dalit bodies living.
Percy,
Yeah.
are you changing your slides?
No, I'm not. I'm not changing. Can you see me though?
Yeah, your screen is shared. We can see your screen, but it's not on presentation. No.
No. But can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. Um, okay. Um, what I was trying to say is that I have no problem. Sorry, yeah, they have no problem seeing Dalit men and women as victims, but Dalit people living their life is abjection. Like it becomes so uncomfortable because you're like, this is not a normal. Like this is I shouldn't be seeing this. Like it's not just a threat. It's beyond that. It's uncomfortable. It comes with like there's so many kinds of abjection in the world, but I'm only talking about Dalit and oppressor in our country. Because we can make this about anything. Like for example, queer bodies, trans bodies are abject. You know, because it shouldn't be there. Like it's like why you exist and also happily exist. Why is that? That is abjection. Um. So my work I worked on a book. I was so in, taken by this concept um, that I unintentionally made my book about this abjection. I'm going to share my work in few minutes, um, but I wanted to talk about how I got to this point of knowing this. I want to introduce a little bit about my work, so I can hopefully by end of this, after showing you my work, I can more better explain what I'm trying to say with abjection. Um, so my work is about Tsunduru Massacre. It is I tried to make an art book, a photographic documentation, more on the experience of around the massacre and what it meant for me and people around. So how it started was I quit my job and I was looking. Wanted to practice full time art, and I went to art program, a residency, and they said you can make a photo book. And the first thing that came to mind was Chundur Massacre, because my mom was 18 years old and she was living in Modhpur, which is beside Chundur, like 3 kilometers, and she was going to school in Chundur. And she told me the story of the massacre when I was very young, as like a dinner table conversation. And it always stayed with me. I never knew the details of it because I had a very privileged upbringing. They never have to share any of the details of their past like that. But the more I grew curious about the story and what happened, and I kind of probed her into telling more details, and I wanted to tell the story of my mother and her and how that became my story and then became like more than that story. So that's the book has like now been into 4 editions of it, 4 versions since 2021. Um, so I'll tell a little bit about Chundur massacre first to understand the book I'm going to show. So in 1991, in a small town called Chundur, there were Reddys who are agriculture landowning caste, upper caste, and then there were Dalits who were mostly agricultural laborers. Um, but in sometime in the 1980s, a lot of Dalits got hangman jobs. So they were government employees who could send their kids to government colleges. They were doing BAs, and they were going to college with these upper caste ready women, uh, children. So basically, the Dalit boys were going to colleges with the women, and that was their fear that these Dalit men will take these ready women and they will do something of that sorts. That was the fear, and there were a lot of tiffs around both the groups. for saying something, like for teachers for using a slur, they went and complained. And they built to a point where some a Dalit man was sitting in a theater, and his feet, I think, touched a ready person, and that led to a massacre of 25 people. And it was brutal. They um, um, they killed them and sacked them in gunny bags and threw them in Tungabhadra river. Um, and that's the story. That's the part of the story I like to I like to skip through that violence is not here at the point. But my my interest is that I asked someone in the village, like, why did they not want them in the theater? And one uncle said, see, in our times, no, theater was like a cafe. Like, that's where the cool kids hang out. So they didn't like that we are occupying that space. So that piqued my interest, saying why it's so interesting that, but they were nice kids who were educated, and your kids used to go to school and college together. Like, why is that a problem? And I've heard that these kids used to have motorbikes, and they used to dress very well, and they used to kind of be studs in college. And that was not something the Reddy men were um, used to, because their parents used to work for their grandparents, probably worked for them as laborers, and they were like sub what do you call servitudes, which is almost slavery. Like, they help, yeah, they could do whatever they want, they could pay them, not pay them. But now these boys have freedom. They were threatened by these boys with bikes and nice clothes and happy just being there. um that's it. They didn't there was nothing more than this. So that's what piqued my interest about this book, and I started telling the story. I'm going to go share some slides. um, so I'm going to keep talking about the book while um, showing you. Can you see? Okay. Okay, you can see, right?
Yeah, we can see the screen, but it's not in presentation mode.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I also want to. Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yeah,
Okay.
you wanna do it as a presentation mode? Or
Remove it, huh? Hello?
no, no, we can see your screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to put it as a presentation mode to make it full screen?
it is full screen. It's not?
It's not.
It's not. Okay. Okay. There's something going on. I cannot understand. Give me a second. Okay. Uh, all I can do is this. Is this okay? Uh,
We
can
can't
you
see.
see?
We can't
No?
see. It's black.
It's black, right? Oh no.
Or if it's, I think it's visible. If it's smaller, then we can zoom in.
Wait.
Right now, we'll let it be. We'll use it as it is.
No. Wait. Okay. Wait, I'm going to share my entire screen, and then I think that will work. Does this work? Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's
Can I?
visible. It's not still the presentation mode, but we can see that.
Yeah, you can see, right? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. So my book is called "This Is a Protest," and I'm going to explain more about the title by the end, and explain why the choice of um, okay. So the book is called "This Is a Protest," and I chanced upon this image of my family cutting a cake, and I thought that would make a great picture for this. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you why later. So these are some of the victims of Tsunduru massacre that we used as a. So I introduce and I want to read a bit what I say in the book. I say this book and documentation is in the honor of people who died and survived and fought for justice. With the lack of representation of Dalit life and their experience in the mainstream, an assertion of Dalit identity significantly changes the meaning of modernity, which has been denied for centuries. The purpose of this book is not to let the world forget that it happened. Their continuous attempts to erase their stories and minimize the pain. Yeah. So this picture is from the protest that happened afterwards. Um, so I introduced my mother first, and yeah, her and her caste location. And I talk a little bit about the village and the geography of it, and what happened before that, which I've just told you about how the village was placed and what happened. This is the map of Chundur. So this is a testimony my mother gave that at that time there was um, typhoid breakout, and they were hiding in hospitals because that was the only safe place they could go. Yeah. So what I thought this was an interesting way to um, yeah, share the story um, as as a glitch. Um, if you want to know more about the massacre, there is a documentary on Dalit camera, where complete documentary about the massacre and aftermath. So I that was the only available online data for me. So I used it and presented it like this. So pages. So I tell the story of what happened, um, how many people died. Um, my interest in the story also, not interest as in the parts of the story for me that are interesting is that one of the uh, deaths of one of the Dalit man was a doctor who did the postmortem of uh, Dalit bodies, and they're mostly his friends or people he knew, and they were all decomposed after like 5 days of searching in the Tungabhadra river because the police didn't help. Um, so he postmortem all these bodies, and he killed himself the day later. For me, that story is something that really stays with me because um, yeah, I and I say the story here, and this is the depth of the list of death. This is a part of the story that you can read somewhere. It's already in human rights report. There's already report. All the screenshots are from there. Some of these screenshots are from the burial of them, of the victims, and that this part, everything about this massacre for me is so. Um, I don't know. It felt so real and not real. Mine. It felt like it was I was there, because what happened at this massacre, what you see on the screen is, the people of Chundur, as a protest, buried the victims in the in between the village, not in a graveyard. They buried them in the city as like a remembrance, like you should know that this happened. So for me, that spirit has been so inspiring. Like, look, like in, I don't know if you know, in rural areas, going past a burial ground or a smashana is not, it's taboo. It's it's not, what do you say, what's the word, it'll mailu antaru Telugulo. Mailu means like it'll make you impure. If what if you, what will happen if it's in the middle of the village? Then what do you do now? They, that was their protest. That was their, like, you did this, now you should remember. And that spirit was that I couldn't, like, some, I couldn't get past this. Yeah. So I also share, also, I have to add that Chundur massacre, what happened afterwards was they fought for their justice. They fought, Chundur. First time there was a camp court in Chundur where the judges had to come to Chundur, and trial court has to happen, and it all had to move to Chundur to happen. And it's the first time in Indian law judicial history that it happened in 1991. So it is special. It is remarkable in so many ways, that the people of Chundu could do this. And also, I have to tell you that why the spirits were like this in Chundur was, it was predated by another massacre in Telugu states called the Karamchedu massacre, which was so much more brutal and politically inclined, and was like, the people who did were politically inclined. So the tensions were already very high. I think this 5 years after Karamchedu massacre. So this is a picture of the camp court, which is still there now. They use it as a school, and no, this place, the actual court, they don't use, but rest of it is a government school now. So while I was working on the book, I kind of went to city library. First thing, I went to city libraries in Guntur, and I wanted to see what they reported. This is a part of the book that's the part of the book. The part that's not in the book is that how they reported the massacre was very, like how an upper caste, media would, you would expect. What you don't see here is, this is August 9th. It happened on August 7th. After 2 days later, what you see on the screen, 27th Harijans massacre, was the headline on the screen. 2 days later, the same Deccan Chronicle had a headline called, Dalits Harijans retaliate, where the Chundur Dalits went and torched upper caste houses. But what you see on the screen right now is the main headline, right? The Harijans retaliate, and that story is much bigger story, where they were saying that they are not unequal, we didn't do anything wrong, it's all overaction, it's they're really blowing out of proportion, is what that front page news says. That was, and interestingly, the journalist who wrote the article, the Harijans retaliate, with a big picture of houses burning, houses with smoke, was also from the same caste as the people who did the massacre. Yeah. So there was a poem written around the massacre about self-respect, and if you if you are from Telugu states, you probably know this poem. You can read the poem online, and and there's one line that really spoke to me. It's in the nation of castes bigots blinded by wealth. I'm someone who lives to register life itself as a protest. So that's the word that came to me, as in like I that's the word I couldn't move on from that line. It's like registering. What do you mean by lives to register life itself as a protest? How do you live yourself life itself as a protest? That's the question I asked myself. Like, how do you live to register life itself? How do I protest by living? I didn't- I asked myself that, and that's how. Yeah, and then I looked at my uh, family pictures. That picture I show in the first slide. When you say registering life itself as a protest, for me this was the picture that came to me. This is a picture from my sister's first birthday with all like my parents, and um, I was like, that's life. Registering life, it's like a birthday, right? Registering life as a protest, like cutting a cake. You're there, like they want you dead, but you're here. You're registering life. You're like here celebrating. Isn't that registering life as a protest? Um, so that's something I wanted to meditate on. Wanted to know more about. So I've kept on going to Chundur and trying to like understand the life there. Usually on the 6th of August, that's when the massacre happened. They have a program, they celebrate, they remember the martyrs. Yeah, so this is also the poem I've in Telugu. So in my head, when I said registering life, for me, I think of this old portrait of my dad's family. These are Dalit families that had access to studios, and like that's you are occupying space, like you are there. This is the oldest picture of my family that I can find. I thought that was so beautiful, and I was like, okay, actually, let's go from there. And then um, I wanted to stop that there and um, talk a little bit more about um, the mainstreamness or of. I wanted to know what cinema was happening going on in 1991 when this happened. And not to my surprise, 1991 July, this film was uh, in theaters in Andhra Pradesh. They advertised it as the first science fiction film in Indian history. It's called Aditya 369. It released in July, I think July 18th. Yeah, July 18th, and it ran till August, September. So, because the massacre started in the cinema hall, I was very curious. What were they watching in cinema halls? There, and it was about future. It was about looking into the future and how our future is going to be like from like 50 years from now, 1,000 years from now. And it's about time travel. Basically the movie is about time travel. It made me so angry that you before you kill people, you are watching about time travel. Oh, so nice. Like, how are you going to watch about like something called like something like science and time travel while you're so regressive? and and then I came across this nice little, not little, lovely paper called Against Brahminical Tradition, a Dalit Critique of Indian Modernity. That became like a interesting topic for me to talk about, like whose modernity is important, like who has the hold on modernity, who has access to modernity, to thought. Like even when people have access to thought, do they have access to the complete thought? Like why is science your idea of modernity, and philosophy like rights and you know that is not part of your modernity? Only science is part of your modernity. When and you don't want to know more about it. And I feel truly people who practice modernity, participate in modernity, are people who come from oppressed class castes. And you see Dalit women, men, they practice modernity. Queer people practice modernity. Like no one does, because there's also a whole theory about why and all. But they have access. It should be, you should learn from them how to practice modernity. Instead, you are making it about, look, we can do this with science and all. So that made me so, like, I was so perplexed by that thought. So I added that in the book too. So from here, the book, like, I tell the story about, going back to telling the story about my mother. My mom was actually married off immediately, exactly on the date from the Tsunduru massacre. And I wonder if she was married off because the village was not safe for her. And I tell the story of the from here onwards. I tell the story of the trial that happened in Chundur, what happened in the courts, because the fight for justice for Chundur is still still they denied justice, and it was murky and um, yeah, it was very complicated. And interestingly, I think, see, I'm showing a whole book as slides. They make so much more sense when they're in a book format. Hopefully you will not think this is so, like, haywire. In a book format, it makes so much more sense. The witness, prime witness of the Chundur case, recently died, so I had to, like, add it to the book. So yeah, and I tell the story of, tell the, you know, um, how many times they had to appeal and how many times it got, like, delayed, um, posters from it. And yeah, I, like I said, I was very much meditating or obsessed, to be honest, with that one word, like registering life itself as a protest. And I try to explain or understand uh, what that is in my own way here. And here I, give example as me at my birthday, and that's me with my cousins, in Chundur. These are some of Dalit, uh, Dalit intellectuals, friends, comics, artists in Hyderabad. So, yeah, this is a visual book, so I'm just going to slide. So, I tell this from the when I'm talking about registering life itself a protest. I thought of, like, this one instant where my mother was stopped making cookies for Christmas. I asked her why, and she said, um, because her friend threw her cookies in the dustbin, because she's been doing it for ages. My mom only realized, like, 10 years ago. So she was so upset that she stopped making them. So this year, I wanted to get all my friends and sit at home and make the exact cookies that my mom made, and we were all and give it to people. So that's me in my house making cookies. I share the recipe also. Yeah, so the only decor in that room was that the one, like, plaque that says this is a protest. Yeah, so these are pictures from the birthday. So I wanted to, like, draw parallel to my friends doing that, to, like, actually my parents who actually did it first, and it's like a little ode to them. Yeah. So I like retrospect in a little bit, saying Dalit parents have a lot of survival guilt, and they made it in the upper caste world, unlike a lot of their friends and family, who still live in Dalit Vadas. Yeah, Dalit parents live with so much fear, as a result, impart so much of that in their offsprings. Fear of being ostracized, rejection. It is a lot of burden to unlearn. Fear of being ostracized is a burden to unlearn. To not live is fear. I want to write and make art about all of this, but it's paralyzing. is where I end the book. Uh, yeah, and the book is dedicated to Anil Kumar. Anil Kumar is one of the witness of Chundur massacre, but he was killed a month after, and it was related in a police firing, and it was um, reported as a misfire at a protest. He if he was if he had enough evidence to sorry accuse 150 people, it could have been a solid case, but they killed him, and his parents still live in Chundur in a very, sorry state. Yeah, so I thought I would dedicate it to him, and yeah, that's the end of the book. I'm gonna stop sharing. Um, so, um, my understanding of my understanding of what happened in Chundur with the what happened, like the people of Chundur, what they did before the massacre, what they did with the massacre, as after the massacre, with the victims' bodies, and that work has inspired me to like put myself and out there and say, hey, they lived their life, like that is their living your life as a Dalit person is abjection. Like it's making other people uncomfortable. It's so out of the ordinary. That is, abjection is considered as freedom or rebellion by the collective or collective society. Like it's like, how dare you be like this? So your existence itself is an abjection. So my idea was to be like, live, like put yourself out there and live. That itself is, I don't care, I don't like to use it's not threatening, but it's freedom, it's rebellion in itself. So that's why the birthday cakes is a theme in it just happened. It was unconsciously became a thing, and um, in the book it became a thing about birthday cakes, and then it also came back to cookies and making cookies, and celebrating something that was taboo and was called taboo as this one as abjection. um, s- um, Burying the dead in center of the city is abjection. And one more detail about the book, about the massacre is, because they buried them in the center of the city council, city village panchayat, all of them, they didn't let them build any solid structure on it. So even till now it's just a wasteland where, just if you know that it's the people who live there know that it's a grave site, it's a site. But people, if you don't know that city is village, you probably don't know. That's still like, there's still resistance after the death also, that you cannot, that there's no marker of the death in the village. For me, that was also another important reason why I have to make a book, because book is a physical poem. Like you can like touch it and say like, hey, look, this happened. Like you can say this, where are the what, but I can always show you the book and say, look, this is there, it happened. It will always be there in a shelf somewhere. It will have like a um, footfall, like there'll be the footprints of it. So yeah, I that's the reason why I was so much more like interested to make this book. And um, I want to share, in the spirit of abjection, I want to share another detail about um, my family. Stories of Dalits homes are, for me, like they're so interesting, from to see them in a gaze that is outside Dalit gaze. Why I am saying that also is because my parents grew up in like Dalit Varas, but I grew up in a township, a central township, where I was the only Dalit person. So I'm very very aware of how people are, how I'm perceived. I went to elite college and I've worked in elite spaces. So I'm very very conscious about how I'm perceived. it used to be like a burden for me before, but I think now I have come to a place where I'm very comfortable, and actually, yeah, I doesn't it's not a thing anymore. But it the story I want to say is that I asked my father, what did you do when Tsunduru Massacre happened? He said, yeah, we had protests. We went to protest. We all went to protest. I asked him, what do you remember from the protest? He said, there was a lot of food. Pachadi was very nice. They served like nice. In my head, I was like, okay, okay for you. See, that's a Dalit experience. That's an experience that's so normal to him. When from the outside, it's just like, uh-huh. And for I still I don't want to like psycho I analyze that also, but from and I thought that was just funny. Like he was like, yeah, I just the food was nice, and that's such a for him such a matter of fact way. For me, that's abjection. That's living life as a protest. That it's just it is what it is. So yeah, and that's the spirit of abjection that I'm really attached to. You can, if you want, if anyone um, want to know more about it, I can I can show resources. This is something I'm working, this concept and theory that I want to talk about is a work in progress. This is it's bare bones right now. So sorry if I'm like little flumbly and here and there about it. Akbar, yeah.
Yes, that was lovely. Yeah.
Thank
So I think like there are so many thoughts while you're kind of like presenting your book. Like you kind of picked one massacre and like did a deep dive of research and which is personal to you and your family. And also like it's very important that how we kind of use art and design mediums to tell our story and express ourselves, which is otherwise missing in the larger narrative. So I think it's very interesting piece of work. And I also had some questions around like how do you kind of like narrow down to doing a visual book when you kind of like have so much data around what all happened, and when while also like it's just not like a piece of book, but how you kind of trying to make a statement and what is the use of it. Like when we talk about art and design practices, we always talk about how it's aesthetically beautiful and looks nice, but we also talk about we also need to think about the function of it. If you're producing something, what is the function of it? So I wanted to ask one question, like what is like what is the kind of function you're kind of like trying to achieve from this. And also like did you like while you're kind of like talking to a lot of people and like observing, and you kind of saw a lot of archival and all those things. Right now I know this book's in still in work in progress. Did you kind of like go back to them and showed your work in progress work just to see how they kind of react and like what is their feelings are?
Yeah, I have showed the Victims Association the book. But problem is the politics on the ground are so much more murkier, which is part of the it's part of the game. But um, I have shown them. I and one thing as a design student, I've understood that straying away from what I've learned is first thing I have to do. Like completely stray away from what aesthetic sense that I've taught in design schools and stuff. It's just not gonna serve me anymore. It doesn't serve me at all. Um, Also, um, yeah, also have the privilege, and I don't know, maybe just it's just what it is that I am able to say the story without any perceived notion, or like how is this going to be perceived. This is how the story I want to tell. I want to tell the story. I'll tell the story like this. It has gone through like versions because I'm not happy. I'll just like revise, but the fact that I want to tell the story through a lens of cinema, lens of like my mom, lens of like what happened factually, um, all the other perspectives. If I My aim is to someday add pictures of the victims before their deaths who were all had like flamboyant lives. That would make my book like then complete, in my opinion. That's why the book is not done for me, because I want those pictures of like I had I'm going to be honest with you, I had to use my own story because I have no access to archival data. Archival data has been taken and submitted to high court. All of it has been submitted. There's no other copy. We don't know what they're going to do with it. They're going to burn it, whatever. So it was like very disheartening that I couldn't get hands on the actual archival data. So the process of making the book had to become my story because there was no. Um, I had to sit and think about like, okay, what can I do about, where can I take the story, and it landed on my head. Like this is my story also. This is my about me also. I'm also part of it. So that's how it ended up being here. So see, what I'm trying to say is that I didn't want this about me. I didn't want this story to be about myself. But somehow it ended up being myself, and it somehow is lovely like that. And I would encourage other Dalit people. You don't have to have like a unique story or like whatever. If it's a story from your home, if your story about love, if your experience of falling in love, or anything that you would consider mundane, would be an act of rebellion. It's There is so much freedom and in living in Dalit bodies. That's one thing we have. So I would encourage people to lean into it. That's what I found making, because like you lean into that view, like that objection is that, then that's freedom, and that gives. I think that's so cathartic and lovely and artistic and creative. I think everyone should.
That's lovely. I think we'll open the floor for questions. And before we do that, I just wanted to make an announcement. We are recording this session just for our purpose, and we might also put it up in our YouTube channel. So yeah, so that's a heads up. And anybody has any questions, they can just raise your hand. I can call out names, so we can take a couple of questions, and Percy can answer them. Yes, Chanchal. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Is it me? Am I the only one?
Yeah, right. Currently, you are the only one, but for
Oh,
people like so, yeah, you can go ahead and ask your question.
yeah. So first of all, I'd like to thank Percy for uh, you know talking about her book and telling us the stories that she's been through. It was very moving, and the first time I heard of Tsunduru Massacre was in a song by Sumit Samos. So as I'm from North India, I did not have I did not know about it. So yeah, and now sorry, my voice is breaking. Now that it will be a book, it will be a better resource for everyone to read and talk about. So my question was, uh, I'm also working on a book, a poetry collection, and I don't know. Uh, right now, I have been to a couple of publishers, and it hasn't worked out well. And as you said, at the end of your uh, session, that as Dalits, we should all write and add to what exists before. So, but the one question that I have in my mind is whether I'm ready or not. Like, I'm in a good position in my life. Like, I'm an assistant professor and I teach in a university. But I don't know if I'm ready for a book a poetry collection would be. I don't know how it will change my life because uh, I'm in a happy place right now. So, what do you think your book coming out will change things? That's my question.
Okay, I'll tell you something. This book has been 2 years in making. It's still in making. Okay, and it'll forever be in making. And right now it's self-published. There's so many publications that would love to publish Dalit authors, and you should always be open to and open to other community members. Criticizing your book, show it to people, write few, make some, like, make a copy, whatever you have, make a copy, send it to people. I think that's how it works, and you have no idea how many people make this happen. I have to be honest with you. Like, I have no confidence whatsoever as a person to put work out like this. There's so many people behind the scenes who saw the work when it was just 5 pages, and like it has no composition, and they said there's something here, do this. All Dalit men and women for years followed up, and and put me in like places and sent me to exhibitions or whatever. Like, they said, hey, there's someone who's going, please call this person and they're going to help you, they will review it. They send it to artists, big artists, like Chamol press artists, to like review my work and stuff. I for that for the That's the thing, like, you have to put yourself out there. You should, first thing is on you. Yeah. um
You wanna ask your question?
I
I read some bit.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
No. You go on. I'm done. I'm just. Thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Firstly, what a fabulous lecture that was, Percy. Really, really fabulous. You should do this more often, I think. Uh, and in my head, I will be very honest. I've had like terrible experience with architects, who, especially Savarna architects, who, portray themselves as artists and illustrators after they give up their architectural role, practice, whatever. And but the kind of work that they do, the art that they produce, uh, it comes from so much mediocrity, that, like, when you were explaining what abjection is, right? Uh, it kind of struck me that all of our experiences, all of our existence is like outside of that mediocrity. And so I think, in a way, it would be the opposite of mediocrity. My question was actually a bit more specific. As a Dalit woman, like, we not only have like Savarnas to push us down, but even within the community there is a sort of abjection
Yes.
for us, for our bodies, for our thinking, our experience, our feelings. So, do you think that the cookies that you made, and I'm sure that you will make more of those in the future with your Amma's recipes, um, would you consider that uh, as like this protest, but not just for the Savarna gaze, but also for, like, from within the community?
Yeah, I do. I completely do, because I'll tell you something. Femininity has um, innately feminineness in, like, patriarchy is abjection. Dalit femininity is also abjection in a different level. And that's what I wanted to put myself as in the book, because if I end the book at before the cookie story, it would have been just about that, about my experience. Did it. You don't have to go beyond that. But it's my story of my mother, and her, like, her story is telling a very specific experience. It's a very female experience, and putting it beyond is, yeah, it's that is, yeah, that's abjection from, like, it's a protest in a way that, yeah, I I'm yeah, I'm aware. And but I am also very confused by how I'm very confused by how, in the community, how our gendered ness of, like, when that gaze comes, that is very confusing, and that's something I'm, like, afraid, difficult, complicated for me to touch. But this is the extent I could go.
Okay, we have a question in a chat. So Samuel is trying to seek some clarification. Since you kind of like mentioned celebrating birthday as a protest for the poor people, celebration of birthday itself is a dream or utopia.
Yeah.
Further, for Marxist may classify this as a class issue. So how do we kind of like locate celebration of birthday as a protest of Dalit life world?
So, so here in my book, the registering life, when you say registering life, I thought birthday would be a perfect example, or a good photographic on your face to uh, registering life. When you say register life, birthday, that's the small comparison I made, and I put that picture. See, also, having the luxury of a birthday cake, that is in itself is abjection, is how I'm seeing it. My You think my cousins from both my mom and dad side have access to, um hi Sumit, access to a birthday cake? No, they don't. I'm the only one who probably have birthday cakes. Like, now they do, but at that time. So for me, that idea of protest is, and I'm also I have to be very clear that my gaze is about abjection, is that putting myself out there in a world that doesn't want to see this from me. You get what I'm saying? They don't want to see this existence, this celebration of mine, and they made it very clear that they don't want to, but I'm still doing it, is the idea of it. And I don't if I was talking about fact that I have good clothes, or like anything beyond that, I would have thought of it as class. And yeah, I yeah, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like, maybe I'm not yeah, I have not nothing more to say than that. Hope I answered your question, Tamil. Yeah. But I hope I make myself very clear, saying that protest as a birthday celebration as a protest is the idea how the birthday, life, registering life as a protest, is how the idea of a birthday came into this, and I had to use the image. Yeah, and I'm not gonna not present myself of what for my truth is that I come from fairly privileged Dalit background, so it's my life experience, so I'm going to put it out.
Thank you, Percy. Anybody more questions?
I want to say hi to Sumit. Hi,
Yes,
Sumit.
please. Yeah, yeah. If anybody wants to ask more questions, you can. Yeah, Sucheta, you can.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you, Percy, for this for such an enriching talk. this was quite nice to listen to this, because I always think that somehow whenever we read Dalit literature, I mean, for my personal experience, I'm a master's student right now. And my introduction to Dalit literature was through Annihilation of Caste and Bhimayana. So I have, very much noticed this thing that quite a few Dalit literature productions get only published by a very few limited publishing houses, and somehow the pictorial descriptions or a representation of Dalit characters in those are in a way that are basically stereotyping the community itself. So as far as I get from your talk that you are a digital artist, right?
I'm a I don't consider
Yes.
myself a digital artist, but I'm a yeah, I'm mixed mediums. I do, yeah, visual artist. That's the word.
Yes, yes. So, from your point of view, I would like to know that how would you, what is your take on this fact that most of the cases Dalit characters are, portrayed through those kind of stereotypes? Is there any protest from your side, or should there be any protest? I mean, there should be any protest, but there should be a way which is less quote unquote normalized, because in these days, as you were also referring to queer communities, and in most of the media representations in India, the queer community is very much put in a place which we should normalize, quote unquote. But that very word normalize is very, I think, criminalized against this queer community, because why would we normalize something which was already normalized, that we actually stereotype? So what is your take on that?
So I'll say this simply one thing. Stereotype is when you say someone is a stereotype. There's a quote that says when stereotype is not telling the whole story. That's it. Like, why are they poor? When you say someone is like this, you're just saying small part of the story, and you want to repeatedly say only that part of the story because that benefits you. Um, yeah, exactly why I gave you the example of Kala is that that movie has made so many people uncomfortable because it doesn't play into the stereotype. And publications and visual representation of Dalit women, or Dalits aesthetics of it changes from like place to place, but somehow this, yeah, the color, skin color, or things like that are like stereotypes of, which is not true also, but it's that's something that's also imposed. Na? Stereotypes also impose that we want you to see for this only, like that. So breaking out of it is my topic today. Breaking out of the stereotype, breaking out of that, what is expected and what is the layer of on top of Dalit people, that whatever they're taught, or all that, like it's staying away from it. I'll give you an example. I worked publication houses where the Dalit book was, and this is a good thing. I'm not trying to diss them or anything. Um, Zubaan books. I worked with Zubaan books, and Zubaan books. I made a cover for them, and on the cover, they're like two women sitting, and then I drew. It's colored nicely, and they asked Percy, can we do something to make them more Dalit? They said that was the feedback I got. And I was like, how do I make someone look Dalit? The skin color is pink on the book cover. They said, no, you use a lot of upper caste colors for their clothes. I said, what? In my head, I'm like, what are upper caste colors? Are parrot green, yellow, pink, rani pink, red, these saturated silk colors, like traditional silk colors, Kanchivaram, all these. And I was like, oh my god. Okay, then what do the lower caste women wear then? Let's ask. I asked my mom. I asked like friends. I just wanted to see your saris. And then I realized this is a discovery I made through this. I took this one seriously, and I asked. So what I realized is, if you look at Bakery Prasad, if probably people should know, he has a very like toned down, like grade versions of colors in his art practice. And I've realized that even people I know also, their aesthetic style has been very like that: blues, grays, greens, but turquoise, anything but that. There is an aspiration, of course, but and also shapes, so much more bolder shapes, geometries in their choice of like aesthetics, which is that in my head I'm like, am I stereotyping? Am I stereotyping? No, I'm not. This is a, and then I did some stuff, and then I understood that going against the mainstream aesthetic, like how Dalit women I know and see in like South states, like grays, blues, greens, also lot more combination of colors which are not um, is their way of asserting, or like their way of marking themselves, identifying themselves. Oh, and I when I said this to a friend, Percy, that are you, until like over analyzing this? Maybe they're just poor, or they're like, you are like making something out of this. Like, no, it's not like that. That for that example is Bakery Prasad for me. So yes, stereotype. Sorry, I just ate up all your time. That stereotype is, when there is a stereotype, there's a truth to it. When you're stereotyping, you're not telling the whole story. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for this example. Thank you.
Yes. We can take one more question and we can close. Anybody? Yeah, I see no more questions. So I would like to call Vignesh to do put up things. Vignesh.
Yeah, hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Percy. It was such a wonderful and insightful talk. And thank you for every participant for joining this evening for the discussions. So thank you everyone for joining. And we have an Instagram page, arc.bangalore. So kindly follow this page to get the updates more. As Akbar explained in the beginning, we are also planning sessions for workshops as such in the future. So follow our Instagram page for the updates, and we have a WhatsApp group too. If anyone is interested, you can ping Akbar or any one of us. We'll provide the WhatsApp link to that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, JB.
Bye.
We are closing the meeting. Yes.
Bye.
Jabim, thank you, Percy. Thank you, Akbar. Thank you,
Thank
Vignesh.
you. Thank you.
Jai Bhim, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.